welcome to this deep dive. When you save a file on your laptop, you know exactly where it goes, right? Like it's in a specific folder on a specific drive.
Right, yeah, it has an exact address.
Exactly. But when you remember, say, your first kiss or where you left your keys,
Wait, strike that. Where is that actually physically stored in your head?
that is the big question. And today I'll be taking on the role of your lecturer, guiding us through Section 8.2 of Chapter 8 from Psychology 2E.
And I am explicitly taking on the role of the eager student today. So, what is our main mission here?
Well, our mission is basically to figure out if your memories live in one single physical spot in your brain or if they're just, scattered all throughout your mind.
Okay, so where do we even start with that?
To understand where we are now, we really have to look at the century-long hunt for the enneagram. Yeah, the enneagram. It's basically the actual physical trace of a memory. And the pioneer here was this guy, Karl Lashley.
He trained rats to run a maze, and then he literally used a soldering iron to burn small lesions into different parts of their cerebral cortex.
Wait, a soldering iron? That is intense.
Very. He was hoping to erase the specific cluster of neurons holding that maze memory.
Did it actually work?
Oh, well, no. He failed completely. No matter what part of the cortex he damaged, the rats usually still found their way through the maze.
Wow, really? So they just remembered anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Which led Lashley to his equipotentiality hypothesis. That is just a fancy way of saying that if one brain area is damaged, another part just sort of reroutes the signal and takes over the memory function.
Hang on, so if Lashley thought any intact part of the brain could just take over a memory, how does that square with someone like Patient H.M?
Ah, you read ahead in the textbook.
I did. According to Section 8.2, H.M. had his hippocampi removed to cure his seizures, right? And he completely lost the ability to form new conscious memories.
He did, yeah.
So if Lashley was right, shouldn't H.M.'s brain have just rerouted his memory storage?
You hit the nail on the head. That exact contradiction forced a massive shift in neuroscience. Lashley was largely wrong about the whole brain sharing the load equally.
Okay, so the brain is less like a single hard drive and maybe more like a corporate office where different departments handle completely different types of files.
I like that analogy. The brain is highly specialized, just like a corporate office. H.M. lost his hippocampus, which acts as the sorting center for declarative memory.
Declarative memory being like the conscious facts and events you can explicitly recall, right?
Exactly. Without the hippocampus, you literally cannot process new facts into long-term storage. But H.M. could still learn new physical skills.
Oh, like tracing a star in a mirror.
Right, because a completely different department in the brain handles physical muscle memory, specifically the cerebellum.
So the cerebellum is the physical skills department.
Yep. It processes implicit memories, which is why a rabbit with a damaged cerebellum physically cannot learn to blink at an incoming puff of air.
Okay, that makes sense. What about emotions, though?
That would be the amygdala. It manages emotional resonance, like fear. When researchers induced cell death in the specific amygdala neurons of rats trained to fear a tone, the emotional response just completely vanished.
Wow. And is there a department for, like, the actual meaning of the memory?
Yes, the prefrontal cortex. That directs semantic meaning, basically processing the language and context of a memory.
Okay, so if the office has all these different departments, what dictates which memories get permanently filed away and which ones just get thrown in the trash?
Yeah.
Like, I remember exactly where I was during 9/11, but I have no idea what I had for breakfast last Tuesday.
Well, survival dictates it. It's a mechanism called arousal theory.
How does that work?
So, when you experience severe stress, your body pumps out adrenaline, and that causes the brain to flood your synapses with a neurotransmitter called glutamate.
Glutamate, okay.
Right, and that glutamate physically alters the connections between neurons, permanently strengthening those synaptic pathways, so the memory becomes deeply, deeply entrenched.
Oh, so the emotion acts like a chemical highlighter pen for the brain. The textbook calls these flashbulb memories, noting that, like, 97% of Americans remember their exact location when they heard about the 9/11 attacks.
Yeah, but here is the crazy part. People assume that massive spike of glutamate creates a perfect, unalterable video recording of the event. But it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No. Less than 4 months after 9/11, President George W. Bush recalled seeing the first plane hit the tower on live TV.
Wait, but that was physically impossible, right? No networks broadcasted that first hit live.
Exactly. It was impossible.
So his brain just fabricated it. Why would it do that if the memory is supposedly cemented by the glutamate?
Because memory is reconstructive. You aren't just playing back a video file.
Okay, so what is actually happening?
Well, because the visual elements live in one part of the cortex, the emotions live in the amygdala, and the context is in the prefrontal cortex, recalling a memory means you have to retrieve all those separate files from the different departments.
Oh, I see. And then you have to stitch them all back together in real time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every time you put the files together, the brain fills in the gaps with what makes logical sense. Like seeing a plane crash on TV, it stitches it together until a seamless false memory is born.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Which means your most deeply felt, vivid memories are incredibly
They're
fragile.
very fragile, and they change slightly every time you remember them.
Wow. For you listening, let that really sink in. Your memories aren't locked in a vault. They are a constantly shifting puzzle.
Absolutely.
So the next time you confidently argue with a friend about exactly how a shared past event happened, just consider this. Your brain's filing departments might have just stitched together a completely flawless, deeply emotional illusion.